Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to your chemistry online class 8th. Today we are going to start with lesson number 3, that is elements, compounds and mixtures, and we are starting with the unit test 2 course. So I think that you all know about matter. What is matter? What do you understand by the term matter? We all know that matter is defined as a substance that occupies space and has mass. That is, anything that occupies space and has mass is called as matter. So there are various states of matter around you, like solid, you come across plastics, wooden things, or the food that you are eating, and everything you are coming across is mostly solid. And the water that you are drinking is another state of matter, that is liquid, and the envelope of air, that is atmosphere, that is around you, contains many gases. So they all are states of matter. That now this matter is classified on the basis of the physical states and chemical composition. What do you understand by physical state and chemical composition? Now you are able to distinguish a gas, or in very simple terms you can say you are able to distinguish between a thing which is made of plastic or an article which is made up of wood. So what is that property? The basic thing that strikes you is the physical property, that is the physical state in which it is, that is the solid state. So this physical state is determined by the physical properties, that is the characteristic of that particular substance. How can you call a particular thing wood? Because it has certain characteristic, that is why it is called as wood. So it is a characteristic of a substance and can be observed or measured without changing the identity of the substance. So all these physical properties include color, density, hardness, melting and boiling points. Similarly with the chemical composition. So the chemical composition is what are the things which are making up that particular thing, whether it is in the form of a solid, liquid or gas. That is, it refers to identify and number, or identify the number of the chemical elements that make up any particular compound. How can we identify water? What is the chemical composition of water? If we say H2O is water, whether it is in seas and ocean, whether it is in a bottle, whether it is in a cup, whether it is in a jug, so it is having 2 atoms of hydrogen and 1 atom of oxygen. So this is the chemical composition of water. So on the basis of the physical states and chemical composition, the matter can be divided. So let's first discuss on the basis of the physical state. So this matter can be divided into pure and impure substances. Is that clear? So first of all, we know that matter is divided on the basis of the physical properties into solid, liquids and gases. But on the basis of the chemical composition and properties, matter is divided into 2 broad groups, that is pure and impure substances, or you can call them as mixtures. So pure and impure substances or mixtures. So pure substances, something is pure, that means it is not containing anything else. For example, if we have for instance we have a sheet of tin, that means it will just be containing tin atoms and nothing else. Is that clear? So it will be containing the same type of element. It is pure, it is not mixed with anything. But when we say impure or it is a mixture, then it may contain many other elements as well. So matter can be divided into 2 broad groups on the basis of the chemical composition and properties, that is pure substances and impure substances or mixtures. And these pure substances can again be divided into elements and compounds. Is that clear? So when we come to the different categories, then we will discuss. And then impure substances are divided into two broad groups, that is homogeneous mixtures and heterogeneous mixtures. These elements can be divided into 4 groups, that is the elements, the non-metals, the metals, metalloids and the noble gases. So let's discuss pure substances first. So pure substances is what? The substance that contains same kind of particles, atoms or molecules. What are atoms? Yes, we all know that atoms are the smallest part of matter which cannot be divided further. It cannot be divided further into parts. So we will discuss this later. They contain subatomic particles. They are the smallest particle of matter, smallest part of matter. Is that clear? Which cannot be further divided into any parts. When it is a group of atom, it is called as a molecule. It is called as a molecule. For example, when we are saying, if for instance we are saying sodium, this is an atom. Is that clear? But when we say sodium chloride, the salt, the common salt that we use in food, that is a molecule. Sodium chloride molecule, it's a compound. For instance, if we say this is a group of atom, hydrogen molecule, H2. Is that clear? So the substances that contain the same kind of particles, whether be it atoms or molecules, are called as pure substances. They are called as pure substances. So a homogeneous, that is having uniform composition. For instance, you have a bottle of water. Is that clear? Now this, if you take out a drop of water from the bottom or from the surface, it always be H2O. It will be nothing else. So homogeneous means uniform, the same composition throughout. Is that clear? Which contains the same kind of particles. This is called as pure substances. So they have a definite set of chemical and physical properties. They have definite chemical properties and have uniform composition, which I have told you they are homogeneous. So they have definite chemical composition. They are homogeneous and they have a definite set of properties. They have definite physical and chemical properties. So what comes under the physical and chemical properties? That is the different set of properties you have when we talk about the melting point, the freezing point, the boiling point, density. So these are the different properties. So all elements and compounds are pure substances. Is it clear? All elements and compounds are pure substances, and elements like iron, copper, oxygen, nitrogen and lead, and compounds like water, sodium chloride, carbon dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, copper sulfate are some examples of pure substances. So you have different elements like, the symbol of iron, you have then copper, then gold, silver and so on. These are elements. So they come under pure substances. When you talk about different compounds as well, which I have just told you, that is the simplest one being water, H2O, or the salts that you used, common salt in food, chalk, that is calcium carbonate and so on. Is that clear? Carbon dioxide, the gas that is used by plants for photosynthesis. Then nitrogen dioxide, copper sulfate are all examples of pure substances. So remember that pure substances contain the same kind of particles. They have definite chemical composition. They are homogeneous, that is, they have uniform composition, the same composition. Is that clear? They have definite physical and chemical properties. So you can take the example of water. If we talk about water, then water is liquid at room temperature. It's freezing and its boiling point is 100 degrees Celsius. its freezing point is 0 degrees Celsius. We all know this. So it is specific. It is not that it will change. It will be the same throughout. Is that clear? So it has a definite set of physical and chemical properties. Then coming to the two broad categories of pure substances, that is the elements and compounds. What is an element? It is a pure substances made up of only one kind of atom, which I have just told you. It will be made up of one kind of atom. For instance, if we talk about a very small speck of gold or a big sheet of the whole of gold, it will be having the same atoms. That is, it cannot these atoms cannot be split into two or more simpler substances by any physical or chemical method. Is that clear? So an element is a pure substance made up of only one kind of atom that cannot be split into two or more substances by any physical or chemical method. Is that clear? So you have so many elements that you have come across, that is sodium, potassium, hydrogen, oxygen. They cannot be split up. They cannot be broken into anything simpler. They will be having the same kind of atoms throughout. If it is iron, it will be having iron atoms only. If it is gold, it will be having gold atoms. They cannot be split into any other simpler thing by any physical or chemical method. So an atom is the smallest unit of an element, which I have told you, and there are many elements that are found in the Earth's crust. Where do these elements come from? They come from the Earth's crust. They are present both in the free and in the combined state, and they are also found in air and water. So when we talk about elements, where are these elements coming from? From the Earth's crust. They are found both in free and in combined state. They are found in air and water. For instance, we talk about carbon. It is found in free state in the form of coal. Is that clear? And in the form of coke. These are all found, and in the combined state it occurs in combination with oxygen as carbon dioxide or as carbon monoxide. So this is the combined form of the elements. Is that clear? Similarly with the other elements as well, they occur both in the free and combined state. They are also found in air and in water. Now these elements can be further divided into four main groups, that is on the basis of their properties, which I have told you, and I had shown you the classification of matter. So they can be divided into metals, non-metals, metalloids and noble gases. These elements can be divided into metals, non-metals, metalloids and noble gases. So these are the different metals, like for instance gold, it is used for making jewelry. Then you have other metals like mercury, it is used in thermometer. Then copper for making wires and so on. So gold, silver, aluminium, iron and zinc are some examples of metals. We can have the symbol of gold, Au, then iron, then zinc. These are all examples of metals. Then non-metals are less in number than metals, and they include oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, carbon, phosphorus and chlorine. Is that clear? This is sulfur, carbon, phosphorus, all are the hydrogen, oxygen, all of these come under the category of non-metals. Then the metalloids. What are metalloids? So metalloids, these are the elements that show some properties of metals and some of non-metals, that is they are something between metals and non-metals. At times they show certain properties of metals and at times of non-metals, and the examples are boron. Then you have other example as arsenic, germanium, polonium, silicon and antimony. These are all examples of metalloids. Then noble gases. What are noble gases? The gaseous elements, which do not react chemically with other elements, are called noble gases. That is why they are noble. That is, they do not react with any other element. They are inert. They do not react with anything. So there are 6 noble gases, that is helium, neon, argon, krypton, xenon, and of course radon. Radon is not given here, it is radon. So they are the gaseous elements that do not react chemically with other elements. So the 4 groups into which elements are divided into or classified, on the basis of their properties, elements can be divided into 4 broad groups, that is metals, non-metals, metalloids, and noble gases. Is it clear? Then we have table 3.1 on page number 25. So this is a comparison between the general properties of metals and non-metals. I've just showed you that metals are solid at room temperature. Exception is mercury. That is, mercury is a liquid. Even gallium is a liquid, and you have mercury in thermometers. You can see it is in the form of liquid, and non-metals are generally solid or gas. An exception of this is bromine, which is a liquid. Now, if the thermometer breaks, sometimes you will see that mercury drops on your clothes or on the floor like this. It will be in the form of small drops. Is it clear? Silver colored drops. So this is in the form of liquid. This is an exception of the metals. It is in liquid state. So this is an example of the non-metal. This is bromine. That is a non-metal. Is that clear? And it is a liquid non-metal. Is it clear? Then the metals are malleable. That is, malleability means what? That they can be beaten into sheets. Malleable. They are malleable. When you can have different gold sheets, then tin foil, you have aluminium foil at home. Very thin sheets, or from very thick to very thin sheets, these metal can be beaten into. So you have different thickness of these metal sheets. So this property of the metal is to be beaten into thin sheets with a hammer. It is called as malleability. So all metals are malleable except zinc. It is brittle. On hammering, it breaks. Exactly, it breaks into pieces. And non-metals are non-malleable. They cannot be beaten into thin sheets. Next is that metals are ductile. They can be drawn into wires. Metals are ductile and they can be drawn into wires. I have told you that malleability, that metal can be hammered into thin sheet. You can see this is the example of gold over here. And similarly, ductility is another property of metals, that they can be drawn into wires. You can see this whole roll of wire. So these are metallic. These are metals. Non-metals are non-ductile. They cannot be drawn into wires. An exception of this is carbon fibers, very thin fibers. Now these are the carbon fibers, very thin fibers, and they have a very good application in industry and electrical appliances. Then metals are lustrous. They are shiny, that they possess a shining texture. That is, whether you can take the example of any metal. You can take the example of the gold jewelry that you have. They have a shining appearance, that they are lustrous. They have a luster. They have a shining appearance, and non-metals are non-lustrous or non-shiny. Exception is iodine. Exactly, exception of this is iodine. It is a non-metal which has a luster. Next is that metals are good conductor of heat and electricity. Exactly, you have different wires. What do they contain? If you take out the outer plastic coat, what do you get? It is metal. It is metallic. So they are good conductors of heat and electricity, while non-metals are poor conductors of heat and electricity. Only example is graphite, which is used in different batteries and cells that you use at home. And gas carbon is also a good conductor of electricity. Gas carbon, it is obtained by destructive distillation of coal. Is that clear? So this is also an example of non-metal which is a good conductor of electricity. Now all the metals are hard, exception is sodium and potassium, which can be cut with they are so soft that they can easily be cut with a knife. Is that clear? You can see they can easily be cut with a knife. And non-metals are generally soft. Exception is diamond, which is the hardest natural substance. So we know that non-metals, for example, we have coal, coke, then the pencil lead that you have, that is also non-metallic. Then you have sulfur, which is a non-metal on the tip, or phosphorus on the tip of the matchsticks, that is also not hard. So non-metals are generally soft, and exception is only diamond. So metals have high density except sodium and potassium. Potassium and gallium, because they are soft metals, just because of their density. And non-metals have low melting and boiling point. Exception is graphite, has a high melting point. The most commonly used pencils, that is graphite. Where can you find graphite more commonly? That is the pencil leads that you have, that is containing graphite, that is graphite only. So metals have high melting and boiling point. Exception is sodium, potassium and gallium, which have low melting and boiling points, while non-metals have low melting and boiling point. Exception graphite, which has a high melting point. Is that clear? Metals are sonorous. For example, the school bell that you have at home, in school, the bell you hear every day, what is it? It is metal. When you anything struck on it, then you can hear that characteristic sound. Is that clear? So that is the sonorous. They produce sonority, they produce sound when hit with a hard object, while when non-metals are non-sonorous, they do not produce sound when hit with a hard object. They don't produce that loud sound that you can hear. The sound is just restricted to the place where, while when the bell is rung, you can hear it in the whole school. So that is the characteristic sound of the metals. Then metals can bear a lot of strain. If you try to break them, they will not break easily. Is it clear? You compare it to the breaking of a string, or breaking of a thread, or breaking of a piece of coal, or breaking of a chalk, and you compare the breaking of a big metal rod or a small metal wire or thin metal wire, you can just understand what amount of strength the metals have. And chalk, whether it is chalk or whether it is wood, if it's a thin chip, it can easily get broken. So metals can bear a lot of strain and they have a high tensile strength. Only the exception is zinc, which has a low tensile strength. The non-metals have a low tensile strength. Only example is carbon fiber, which has a high tensile strength. So this is the comparison of the properties of metals and non-metals. So please go through it and revise whatever we have done today. Allah Hafiz.